Games. Board games, board games. I might be going to pitch. Board games, board games. I might scratch the itch of what they're looking for. And here we've got Alan Paull, who is making some wonderful statements about what we should do when saying, hey, this is a game that's new, and maybe you might want to publish this thing, although probably you would do that without singing. Board games and pitching, it's what we're talking about. Board games and pitching, I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. It's 10 a.m. UK time for Busy Beats and Board Game Blether. And hello, Alan. It is lovely to have you. Thank you for coming here to answer my somewhat selfish question.
Hello, Bez. It's fantastic to be back again. after my trials and tribulations, but there we go.
Yes, and I'm glad to see that you're relatively healthy. You look well. Is everyone in the house well?
We're much better than we were. Yeah, there's a bit of lingering tiredness and coughs and things, but apart from that, yeah, it's all good now. Yeah, it's good.
Now, the truth is that regular viewers might be aware that I've got an exciting meeting this afternoon at 4:30. I'm going to try and aim to leave the house at 3. Actually gets out of the house at 3:30. Arrived there maybe half an hour beforehand. I don't know if that's too early. Maybe you can let me know. But anyway, it's a massively mass market pitch. I'm trying to do very short games in the space of half an hour, and I thought maybe we can talk about what makes a good pitch, see if there's anything that maybe I hadn't thought about. Maybe anyone watching will also get some ideas.
That sounds brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I can only say my experience as a publisher and as a designer, obviously. So I think Tony and I, way back in the midst of time of Surprise Day, right at the start, we actually did pitch to Mattel. Which was exciting. But I wouldn't say I've got much experience of pitching mass market apart from that. So,
I mean,
that in mind.
There is going to be some crossover, and I think, and a quick hello to Timmy. Thank you as always for jumping in. And I think I've been fortunate enough to listen to some pitches on behalf of Alley Cat Games, but that wasn't maybe a direct thing, so that's quite different. I mean, I've never had the experience of being in person with someone and them pitching to me, although I have done this in the past with a few companies of just saying, hey, here's a game, and showing it off. And what I typically tend to do is actually play the game. I know that people say this isn't something you should expect to do, but for my styles of games, it's not about an economic euro where you've got to guide yourself through half an hour before it all culminates in a thing. It's a case of, hey, I can give you an actual experience of the game in less than 5 minutes, if not sometimes play the entire thing.
Yes.
And
I think I would agree that I mean, I made some notes about how I like people to pitch to me as part of the Surprise Day Games, and the thing at the top of my list was, tell me clearly about your game, show me by playing. So it's, in a way, it's like when you're storytelling, it's show me, don't necessarily just tell me, but show me. So actually get the game out, move the pieces around, do it. And in your case, of course, with your games, Bez, that's how you transmit the idea of the game, by playing. And you can do that. You can play a whole game, one of some of yours, in 5 minutes, which is great. So I mean, do that, because that's your pitch becomes playing the game, and that there's no clearer way to show the strength of the game than that, really.
And maybe it turns out that the game isn't for them, but it's better to find that out as soon as possible. I think that what would be ideal is if you've got a few notes, maybe we can get out of the way. Like, not that sounds harsh, but like kind of have a sneak preview, like talk through quickly everything, and then we'll go have a jaunt through our recent highlights and everything.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Shall I go through my notes? Is that
Yeah, just like in short note form, and then we'll examine them in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, the main thing is context is everything. So know your publisher. Know who the publisher is, what they do. So which I'm sure you're very aware of. And then I had the three key do's I have is the one, show me your game, tell me about it. Have confidence and be honest to yourself and to the game that you've done. So don't try to make out that it's something that it isn't. If you think they like certain something, don't try to make your game into that certain something. Say it like it is. And thirdly, and most importantly, you want to have a kind of one-line hook. We go back to that. For me as a publisher, there are certain things I like to have. Give me a copy of the rules. Give me a prototype if you can. Talk with me in a business-like manner. I don't mean you have to be all formal and serious and stuff like that at all, which I know probably you're not going to be, Beth. But be business-like and presentable.
When you say actually, we'll get into that later. I shouldn't ask questions.
No, show me what you think of the game. So in other words, you've got to have. I know you all have some passion for the game. Obviously, that will come through completely. Tell me a bit about how you designed and developed the game, because that gives me context about you as a person, and how you do the process. And bear in mind whenever you're talking to a publisher that you may be setting up a long-term relationship with that publisher. So you want to make sure that you are dealing it in that kind of professional kind of way. Because if you don't manage to place a game with them this time, you want to have another go later on when you've got other stuff. So those are the do's. The don'ts, a few little bits and pieces of don'ts. Now, obviously, these are going to be rather personal to me as a publisher and as me, and I'm not necessarily typical because we're not a typical company, really. But don't tell me that the game fits with my range or with my company, or don't tell me that I'm bound to want this game. Because I was reading somewhere on the internet that, most times, most pitches, you're just going to get a rejection, and it won't be because it's a bad game. It won't necessarily be for any reason that you know about. It could be something just a publisher knows about. Don't tell me that it's unique or unbeatable, or as somebody once said to me, it'll replace Risk in the marketplace, and you think, don't do that. And don't give me a sell sheet unless I ask for it. I have moderated my viewers' sell sheets slightly, but I don't need a sell sheet unless I have a purpose for having a sell sheet, and we'll go into that as well. And don't take offense if I reject your game. So don't have an expectation that you're going to place the game with me as a publisher. That's the icing on the cake in a way. And don't, from my point of view, for me, don't focus on the artwork unless the artwork is absolutely critical to the gameplay.
And so by that you mean a game about matching bits of art, for example?
Yes. Or like Dixit, which, I mean, you can't, I imagine if you were pitching Dixit, you can't not focus on the artwork because that's the game, really. So that's my brief notes.
That's some brilliant notes. There's definitely some bits that I will be delving into and asking follow-up questions on, but that's exciting. So let's take a step back and talk about some recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. And I thought that I would quickly show some photos from Tony Boydell's Museum of Board Games. Now, Alan, you have, of course, known Tony a lot longer than I have. And for those who don't know Tony, how would you sum up Tony?
How would I sum up Tony?
Yes.
Tony is a very extrovert board game personality I think you could say. He's done he's a very, very good designer. I mean, he designed a lot of the most successful Surprise Dare games when he was with us.
I mean, Tony is still alive, just to make clear.
Oh,
When
yeah, yeah.
Alan said with us, as
That
in
sounded,
part of the
that
company.
sounded horrible. No, when he was with the company, yes. Tony has a large family, and he lives in Newent in Gloucestershire. And his main work is he's a contractor, so he's away from home quite a lot. And he has a lot of meetings. And he's also, I should stress, a very good cartoonist. He's a really good cartoonist. So a lot of his
did a lot of the arts
doodling.
for Surprise Dare games and
Yeah.
the logos and the.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
the kind of screaming clock. I mean, the life that thing gets. But so feel free to please fill in some details. But my understanding of the Museum of Board Games is that Tony just loved collecting old board games, had them in a shed, and eventually had an increasing desire to actually make some sort of museum for this. And at this point, this is like a hobby project.
That's right. Well, yes. Well, he also earns a bit of money from it. I think you can subscribe on Patreon to support the museum, which is great. But he set up this museum in a little place in Newent in Gloucestershire, in the Forest of Dean. He's got a lot of stuff. I mean, he gets donations from people because, if you've got old copies of games, that are going to be quite rare and stuff, and you don't need them, he's very happy to receive that kind of stuff. And some of his materials goes back into the 19th century, it's an eclectic mix of stuff, I would say. I don't think at the moment necessarily he's aiming at completeness or anything like that. He's aiming at collecting what he can and showing off the absolutely marvelous stuff that has been around, over the couple of hundred years of board games. And he's got a huge and growing collection, so there's a lot to look at. And it ranges from really old classical Victorian kind of race game type things and exploration games that the Victorians were keen on, all the way through kind of mass market stuff from the 60s, that TV tie-ins and things like this, all the way up to some present day things. And he's got a whole collection, for example, of collectible card game stuff, because he did a lot of playing collectible card games, and naturally he's got all the Surprise Dare games fair as well.
Well, I think that it's more of like that bit is like a vanity cupboard of all the Tony Boydell designed games.
Yes,
and there is also this CCG all about Jose Mourinho, which is a really interesting theme. And here you can see Tony showing off some of the old cards. I think one of them has been flipped over because of, there are some things from the early 1900s that are problematic today, but can be shown, as long as you give people a trigger warning. We played this game, which, is very, it's all about hunting animals on a safari, which is not a theme that you'd want to create a game about today, but purely about shooting targets. It pings little elastic bands, and you can have multiple elastic bands on one game. If these are an entire display of essentially one rule set, but just with a lot of different skins, if you know what I mean. So here, Railway Riot, I think, was the original, and then this was something that Tony was inspired by for Race the Rails, where you're looking at little sheets of paper and then you go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And if you don't like railways, well, you can do the shopping one or the home finding one, which doesn't really make as much sense, because why do you need to do things in a particular order anyway for those? But I mean, at least the railway line kind of makes some sense. And then there's the Sky Flyers, like traveling around the world, which again, when you're going from A to B, that sort of makes sense. and done by different companies. This game was even incomplete. We joked about it being essentially the Simon of the 80s, like just this giant game. And Tony there, after we'd packed up at the end, Tony with Adam, we played, I don't know if you know this game, Frischkönig.
I don't know that, no. Not seen that.
Oh, this is a really, really good game. And in this one, you've got bag, or you've got delightfully painted frogs, which are wooden and then are painted with, I believe, like 3 colors each one. And you're pulling out little sticks of different lengths. You always pull out 2 sticks, and you've got to then place them on the board and trying to be the closest without going over, if that makes sense.
Yes,
so here,
right.
blue has managed to win, and green has come second. Red, have disappointingly just gone over. You can see that I didn't do very well in this game, but even so, it was so much fun, and I think that's all the best games. They are fun even if you don't win them.
The interesting thing about a lot of the games that Tony has got, the older games, is that even nowadays, some of the mechanics they use would look quite innovative. It's because people have lost track. I think the some of the older Victorian games, and older even, have been completely forgotten. You find that in wargaming as well. With wargames, there's lots of very old wargames from between the wars, where they're really innovative mechanics, and people have just forgotten about them at all. So now they don't even. So if you come up with what you think is a new mechanic, you suddenly find somebody did something like that in the 1920s. Anyway, yeah, sorry.
And this is something that you are very familiar with.
I
believe you've got still a few sealed copies, like for memorabilia in your attic.
We have some of those in our archive. Yeah, that piece of artwork. Yes. This marks out Surprise Stare from other companies. That artwork was done like that. It was originally a line drawing that Tony did with all this Celtic knotwork.
And I love the fact that within the rays of the sun, within the bushes, there's all these Celtic knots.
Yeah, because I mean, no company would ever do, I think, artwork of that complexity and richness, I think, because it would be so expensive to do. Well, certainly not. I think we did a run of about 750 of those. So it's a quite small run, but because we weren't paying we didn't pay ourselves salaries and money and things for doing this. And
It's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love, exactly. And that's me there sitting as the king of kings in Ireland.
And is that Tony as the middle bird?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. We're all.
And I did get to meet Karen finally.
Oh, right, good.
Karen Boydell, very briefly. Looking at this, so this is a very complicated. Well, it's not complicated. It's simple, but it's very difficult. You need a lot of knowledge of birds. So the head, the body, the legs, and the tail. Each bird is comprised of 4 different birds, and you need to identify what one is just from the head, and then the second just from the body. And so, like, looking at number 11, that looks like it's probably a hen or a cockerel, and I guess a common duck of some sorts, but I'm not sure what the tail is or what the legs are. I mean, you've got to be good enough to know a bird just from the legs.
That is quite an interesting idea, isn't it? Yes.
And they made all sorts of these things, which are just gorgeous artwork.
I love the name. You've got to love the name there. Aviarities. Oh, yes. I can see Tony would like that because he's into puns a lot.
And the final picture I had was of this naval ship movement game called Drake. And we did get to play a couple of games while we were there, but honestly, I don't know if I can say that it's still mutating. As you say, there's not a sense of completeness. You can't be complete. How can you possibly be complete? But what it is a collection of joyful, hey, this is cool. Look at this. This is worth checking out. And there is a really nice sense of curation in that I walked in, and it wasn't for me, but there was a game about the Strathclyde Railway Network, which Tony says, well, you'll like this, seeing as that's where you grew up. And it was nice to see. And Tony has the knowledge and is able to take you around everything as a guide. And Tony clearly has a lot of passion. I mean, otherwise, wouldn't have designed so many games. So it's just a lovely thing. And that is Tony Boydell's Museum of Board Games. I don't know if I would, like, again, it's not, if you can go spend a long time, I would say yes, absolutely. It's not how much of a destination it is, how much you should travel for it, depends on you. I mean, I think that if you are ever in the Midlands of England, potentially if you're in Birmingham and you've got a car that you could drive around, then it might be a reasonable time to go up. But
I was thinking, if you're ever in that area, it's worth dropping in to Newent. It's easy to get to, and it's well worth it.
That goes without saying. I mean, but then the question becomes, how much should you travel? And that's not a question I can answer for anyone else. Unless you have any comments about Tony Boydell's Museum of Board Games, what have you been up to, Alan?
Well, it was my birthday the other day, so that was quite fun.
I'm sorry I missed it.
No, that's no. So we played. Charlie and I played a game or two, as you'd expect, and that was great fun. So now I've got a lot more reading to do because I tend to get books for my birthdays, which is great. And we went out and saw the latest Marvel film, the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which was really quite good. Yes, it's quite good. Definitely recommend that one. I am preparing a lot now for UK Games Expo, as you might expect. So that's taken quite a lot of preparation. So that's the kind of things
I saw that you'd gotten a shout out on the Facebook and on the Twitter. Congratulations! Did you have to fill in a form for that?
We for the first time, we've actually done some proper advertising. So that's quite a departure for Surprise Day, because we're Expo. We've got our biggest ever stand at Expo this coming Expo, which is only just, well, from our point of view, Bez, it starts 2 weeks tomorrow, doesn't it? Because that's when we set up.
Yes.
We've got a big stand with Triple Ace Games and with Chaos Publishing. And we have, for the first time, all 3 of our currently published Pocket Campaigns games available, as well as the last few copies of the Snowdonia Deluxe Master Set. And we're also showing off the new prototype Kingmaker that I've been working on with Gibson's Games. And
yes, I saw
some of the artwork
in your description, giving a shout out to Kingmaker. It's very exciting. And so you won't be in your normal space near me by the wall.
No, we're in Hall 1, and we're right next to Osprey, which is quite good. And I think we're quite near Games Workshop, so it's quite central. It's quite a good prime location, which is a bit of a departure for us.
So you have jumped away from the wall and decided to stake out a brand new place.
We're seeing what the middle of the hall is like. Bravely.
Yeah, I am also excited by that. I've got to actually add all my new things. I've got ridiculous amounts of new stuff. I was discussing with someone whether games that were released at, about 4 days ago or Friday would still count as a new release, because according to the thing, it says it can't have ever been shown at a previous UK show. But I was chatting to Toby from Oink Games, and we decided that what we need to decide for ourselves is what constitutes a UK show. And okay, Aircon, that feels like a UK show, but something where there's 100, 200 people and it's incredibly local, that doesn't feel like a UK show.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you could say it's a local show or a Hereford show, but probably not a UK show.
I think you're on very safe ground, Bez. Yes, definitely.
But,
well, I mean, technically speaking, I don't think we would technically have anything new ourselves at this expo, except, I mean, because we went last year, because we had the Ming Voyages and March Progress last year. The Cousin Tour, which is our reprint, is kind of bizarrely the new thing, because it hasn't been available for about 5 years. So although technically not new, it hasn't been around for a while. So I'm quite pleased we've got that coming.
And I think that when you get to do the reprints, it's super important. I mean, you've got a lot more publishing experience than me, but it feels like it's super important to actually take the time to remind people that, hey, this old thing exists, rather than always just promoting the newest thing. You want to promote multiple things if you can.
We definitely do. And this time, this time we have got lots of helpers on our stand, which is because we've got a big stand. We have to man the stand, so we've got a lot of people helping us, and we've got new T-shirts out. I'm wearing my new T-shirt, so it's got the surprise stare logo on the front, and then on the back, I don't know if you see it. I probably can't get this right. On the back, it's got pocket campaigns. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, could you come down a little bit?
There we go. That better? There
yes.
Pocket campaigns on the back. So we've got a whole bunch of these. So all our staff will have these T-shirts, and we've got some nice big panels of pictures of pocket campaign stuff. And can I share my screen? I don't. Am I allowed
Yes,
to?
yes, you can. And a quick hello to Joseph Kelly. It is lovely to see you.
I just want to share. How do I do this?
Of course, my stand at UK Games Expo, I will be in a different color. I will be somewhat similar to this, and everyone else has to, at my stand, has to be in red. But I don't have an official T-shirt. It's just everyone wearing their own stuff,
red.
And
yes.
You get, if someone really needs it, then there can be a bit of financial help, or even, okay, you struggle to get your own clothes. You know what? I've deliberately got extra long sleeve tops and extra T-shirts if you want them. But my hope is that everyone gets red clothes that they are comfortable with. So we've got unity, but also a bit of chaos.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Well, I must admit, we haven't quite gone that. We've got the T-shirt, but they can wear the T-shirt on top of something else if they want to. That's yeah. This is going to be our Kingmaker panel on the stand, and I like that artwork.
That looks really nice. Is that
very
all
much
new?
from the?
Is that new artwork?
That's new artwork. Yes.
I mean, that looks very reminiscent. I mean, it's brilliantly done. It looks like something that could have come out of that old era.
The idea is to kind of echo the style of the old original game, but bring it up to date, make it more dramatic. So this is a panel which is derived from the box. Well, you see the box artwork in the bottom left of the picture. So yeah, really, really happy with that. It's quite striking and quite dramatic, and we're currently deep in the forest of getting the new artwork sorted out for all the components. So it's all new artwork for Kingmaker, and it does look really fabulous, I must say.
That sounds amazing. Joseph Kelly says, I just booked a ticket for UK Games Expo, so I'll see you there, Bez, and hopefully I'll meet you, Alan.
I hope so. Yeah, we're at 1828. Shall I stop sharing now?
That's 1828, and I am 1T11 in the corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to meet up, Alan, on the Tuesday in about 13 days' time. So
we can talk in more detail.
We can talk exactly what we've got lined up, but I feel like we should get back to the main topic of what makes a good pitch. Yes. So you talked about research the company. This kind of goes without saying. And the day that you are about to pitch to them, if you're researching them at that point, it's probably a bit too late.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Now, I really like what you said about showing the things and having the honesty and having the one-line hook. Now,
Yeah.
I've tried, I've kind of accidentally stumbled upon my games being really good to give to publishers, but because if I say, hey, this is a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your beetroots,
Yes.
then you know exactly what there is, and that's kind of got. Does it have a hook? And I can explain. This is rather than matching, you are avoiding matches. That's the
Yeah.
hook.
Yes.
And
That's perfect. Yeah. I mean that's why. I mean, and also you've got your. I've got your lovely artwork. Where I can't see it. There we go. Ah, there you go. Ah.
So the question is, when my plan is to. So today I've got multiple games to show, and so when I was told that rather than just have these, I'm going to show this game, then that game, then that game. What I should do is do like a 30-second explanation of each of the games, and then say, okay, which one of these would you like to see first? And leave it up to them, because then they can guide me towards a thing that they want to show. And someone said, if they really want you to keep showing something for even the entire pitch, even if it means that you don't get to show any of the other things, they know that you've got the other things, and presumably that means they're really interested in this one thing. So just go with them, let them guide the flow.
I think that's right. Yes, I definitely. I mean, I haven't done a pitch which involves like that many things, which are quite quick to show. But they will get the flavour of that when you start doing that, and they may be able to guide you. But I would certainly have in your mind which one or two are your ones that you want to focus on. If they say, well, we don't mind, give us. Yeah. So be ready to say, well, in that case, this one, and also this one. So literally have a couple that you're going to focus on yourself, so that you know you can keep the flow of it going, because you don't want to be umming and ahhing about which one to do if they don't respond. But having a dialogue with them about that is a really good idea. Part of what the publisher is always doing in the pitch is finding out about you. So how long you've been designing, what kind of things you do, what your design process is, what's your credibility design. So having a bit about your background. Oh, one thing I didn't put in the pitching notes was, of course, you do need to tell them what you've done before. That's quite important, because the fact that you've got a track record is important. It's not the be all and end all.
And presumably you wouldn't bring your previous games or show pictures. You would just say, yes, I've been published, and or
that's a good question. I think it's not a bad thing to bring to take Yogi with you, and because you can just stick it on the table and they can see it.
I mean, I could just give it as a gift.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, you could.
It's not.
I mean,
I have to buy them. They cost me, with the import fees now, which added almost £2 to the cost of each unit, which is a lot, given how much they are costing me. Like if it was a £40 game, that would be very different. But still, I
think the fact that game effectively is it? Would you call it a mass market game? I don't know.
Yeah, I would.
Yes, I think so.
It's not really broken into mass market, but it aspires to be a mass market game.
Yes, I would say definitely, because it shows that you're a serious person in that field. It shows you've got a track record in that field. I mean, I see, if I was pitching to a mass market publisher, I would find that much more difficult, because I haven't got a track record of doing that kind of thing, whereas you have, and that's your major advantage. And what that does is just raises the credibility in the most direct way. I mean, I wouldn't go over the top saying, "Here's my guy, he's a great successful." Blah. Don't over egg it. Just say, "I did this. I did."
Frankly,
produced by Jig,
the reason that I brought up the cost was that I could just bring it and say, "Here's a gift if you would like it. If you don't already have one."
You could, yes. I don't think that's vital, but I would. Yeah, you could. Yes, why not? It's a good idea.
Hello to that is Ian Cameron. who is
Hi.
going to be demoing for Tabletop Scotland at UK Games Expo. It
Right.
is lovely to see you. And yeah, we're talking about pitches, and you mentioned confidence. So honestly, having wee things like getting there half an hour early, making sure that I know where the room is, maybe taking 10 minutes to wander around the park. Yep, I was just checking the skies. It doesn't look like it's going to rain, fingers crossed. And making sure that I'm comfortable, maybe even playing some self-affirming songs and music that makes me feel good about myself.
I think that's, I mean, whenever I'm going to a meeting like that, I'm always paranoid about being late. So I'm always really, really early. I mean, ridiculously early sometimes. So I mean, that's just I've learned in the past. I mean, I had a boss who's never like that. And when they went to a meeting with him, he'd always cut it to the last minute. And you think, well, I've literally had to run for a flipping train before because my boss was, and that was the last train we could get to the meeting. So I would never do that. So I'm a bit more paranoid about being late. I have no qualms about being really early because, yes, as you say, especially if it's fine, you can always go for a nice calming walk. You can think about what you're going to be doing. You can do some nice relaxation exercises if you need to, because I think I think you know your subject. It's like you see what you're doing is you're making a presentation. A pitch is like a business presentation, and to do that successfully, you need to know your subject very well. Now, obviously, because you've designed the game and developed the game and created a prototype yourself, you know that you are the world's expert in those products. So you can have confidence. You know exactly what you're talking about, and you should be able, because of that confidence, to be completely honest about your view of it and what the game's about. And that's what a publisher needs, and the publisher needs to know what you think the main points of the game are about, hence the one-line hook type of thing that people say, and that gives them a very easy way of seeing that you know what you're talking about, and you've appreciated that they need to know that, and so that they can come to conclusions fairly quickly.
Let's say there are so actually, before we go into the honesty too much, I want to talk more about the time. So there's a room that I've got to go to, and I know this might sound like a basic question, but I'll go there half an hour before, be like, okay, that's the room that I've got to go to, have my wander around, and then should I plan to get back there and knock on the door like 5 minutes before the thing, 2 minutes before the thing?
I always go 10 minutes before the thing, not more.
But like, because it is a door, like it's a private meeting cubicle.
Oh, is it a private? Have they got meet and greet people that will? I mean, presumably they'll probably have somebody who's. Is this a meeting that they're organising? Are there other people who are going to be pitching in this? Is it a series of pitches?
Yes. So they've got like half-hour meetings throughout the day. They might have like 15 meetings.
I would go there 10 minutes before, and they will have somebody who will be organising that. All big companies will have somebody who will organise the flow of people into the meeting. So I mean, 10 minutes before is fine. I mean, sometimes I've done this before myself. Sometimes you find they're running a bit early, so if you're 10 minutes early, you take advantage of them being a bit early. But they will have the organisation to sort out exactly when people go in. So there's no harm in being 10 minutes early. More than 10 minutes, it looks like you're a bit stressed, a bit pushy, a bit stressed. But so 10 minutes is fine.
I can wander up half an hour, 40 minutes before, be like, okay, that's the room. Now I'll head off and maybe even treat myself. No, probably don't want to eat something at that point. That
would have a coffee. Go and have a coffee or a tea or something.
Because like just the area, I know the area going to. Yeah, it would be another like 10-minute cycle to actually get somewhere where I could get something that's not super extortionate. Hello.
The trouble with
Alex,
going and having some food is the last thing you want is to spill something down your front. But yeah.
Yes, it's lovely to see you, Alex. So we talked about showing things, making sure that you actually played a game. And I just want to tell a really quick story that ages ago, Andy Hopwood, who made Mindleaf, and they were very proud that they'd managed to explain the rules of Mindleaf in a minute. And they almost wanted it to be a world record type thing of what's the fastest that you can explain the rules and actually make it intelligible. And then part of me wanted to beat the rules with Yogi because I clearly could. I mean, I can
yes.
I mean, I could probably explain that in about 15 seconds if I, write a script. But again, I have this advantage that I can say this is a game about quickly grabbing creatures. That's are totally different and counting your beetroots. So rather than matching things, you're avoiding matching. And I can play the game within a few minutes. So I am able to show, as you say, I have the confidence with the honesty. I mean, this is where it comes down to, well, if I've got something that I feel like, well, this could be changed, and these are some ideas of how it could be developed. I'm aware that obviously all the graphics will be changed, and the graphics actually really matter in this game because it's about avoiding matches. And here are some ideas that I have. And hey, actually, I realized that if I were to do this again, I would change this one aspect of it. That kind of developmental talk, presumably I would not bring that up until they've maybe expressed an interest.
I'd see how it flows. I mean, what you want to do when you show them the game, you do your 30-second or minute whatever explanation, and there should be a dialogue because they will ask questions probably. I mean, I thought, and then you've got a dialogue, and you can take that in any direction you like. So one thing to make clear of, obviously, is that that they'll do the artwork. So you're not. Occasionally a mistake, I know you don't make it, but occasionally designers make the mistake if they're new, especially if they're newly pitching, is that they don't want the publisher to make any changes to the game. Or sometimes I've even had people who said, well, the artwork's completely ready, here you are, I can just publish it. And you think that's really not how it works, but I think all that anyway. So as long as if you're saying, well, yes, I'm aware that things might change. This particular card, for example, I would probably change it in these ways. But of course, with your artwork, there will be differences, and we would have to look quite closely at how the artwork matches with the concept of the game. That's the kind of thing. And of course, they may take a view. If it's a very large company, they may just take the game off you and say, "This, we really like this. We'll do everything. We'll do all the development." And they may not even necessarily want you to be involved. It very much depends on the company. Nowadays, I think that's rarer. Certainly, 20 years ago, it was much more common, especially in wargaming. Publishers actually would just take your design and they would do all the development. You wouldn't necessarily hear anything.
Interesting. I would have expected war games to be more about involving the other person because it's a smaller company. I would have thought that it's the bigger the company, the more likely they are to just do it themselves.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah, I was thinking if they're talking about large war game companies in the 60s and 70s who have got their own development staff, which is
like Avalon Hill,
like Avalon Hill or SPI, they would literally just take the design and they would do all the work. And yes, a designer could be involved, but they might have to try hard to get involved. Nowadays, that's not so likely, I think. Although it would very much depend on the culture of the particular company. For example, I'm working with Gibson's Games, and they are very happy that designers work closely with them on the development and all the way through the publishing aspects as well.
Gibson's is a really interesting one because even though it's a fairly large company, it is still a family business, kind of.
Yeah.
And I went there in London Toy Fair, and I got to meet one of the Gibsons, and then I passed some emails with one of the people who was checking out for games, and unfortunately they said, yeah, we just won't have a meeting with you until next year, which, since it was January at that point, so it was like, okay, 12 months away.
Yes, yeah. Well, yes, I mean, Gibson's, they're not, they're an old company. They've just had their
130th,
130th,
103rd, I think, birthday.
103rd, that's right, 103rd. So they are a long-standing family company with a track record of producing board games, and but they're a lot of their bread and butter stuff is jigsaws. So the jigsaw side is a lot bigger.
Same as Ravensburger.
Yes, that's right. Yes. What point were we making? Oh, yes, whether they do the development themselves or not. So I think that nowadays board game companies tend to be relatively small in the commercial sense. For example, in terms of staff, they may not have a lot of staff, so they may not nowadays do all the development themselves. They may welcome the person, and as I said earlier, you're the expert in your game, so they'll be very. I think it would be a bad thing if they didn't involve you in it, but they may have their own direction they want to go in, and you have to go with what they want in that sense, really. I mean, I would certainly, from my perspective as a designer, I would certainly push myself forward and say, yes, I'm very happy to support the development and publishing if that's helpful, to them.
And that's a really nice line, just to say, I am happy to help going forwards, because definitely my inability to speak French 5 years ago, I think, did mean that there was like one small mistake. It doesn't make the game a bad game necessarily, but it just makes it a little bit worse than but anyway, so you talked about giving the rules, giving the prototype, making sure you've got something that, if they're actually interested, you've got that to give. You talked about being businesslike, that you want to talk in a businesslike way. And this is something that I want to explore, what exactly you mean by that.
Okay. Okay, right. Well, there's two parts. There's two parts to this meeting in a way. Well, there's more than two, but the two major parts are when you're talking to them about the relationship that you want to have with them commercially, and that's what I mean by businesslike. So if they accept your game, for example, and you're talking about contracts, it's a business relationship you're going to have if you place a game with them. And the other part is when you're demoing the game. When you're demoing a game, that's where you're showing how fun this game is and getting them involved in that, because hopefully you're going to be playing it with them. So that can be your fun bit, and because it demonstrates, particularly with your games, how great they are in terms of how people react to them and the fun you can have and the joy that it creates. So that, which is the absolute kernel of all the games that you do, really. I think it's that joy that it generates, and that's what I mean. Separate from the one-line hook, the joy that it generates when you play your games, for example, at conventions, that's what they'll see, and that's what would hopefully convince them that this is something that they want to take on. But so the business-like section is, when you're introducing yourself, saying who you are, that kind of thing, so that's what I mean by business-like. So that there needs to be an exchange of information about who you are and where you're from and what your expectations are. They'll tell you what their expectations are. That kind of thing. So that's what I mean by business-like.
So a sense of clarity and a sense of not beating around the bush, just getting to the key point. So it's not about having extra ceremony. If anything, it's the opposite, to just say, yes, this is the thing, this is what I expect. If it's for you, then obviously great. If it's not for you, then let's move on to the next thing.
Yes, exactly. There's a like in all of these kind of relationship building meetings that you have, it's that combination of being friendly but to the point, not brusque, but being friendly, but also making sure that you're in this. You're building a business relationship, so you're building a relationship which is based on exchange of information, hopefully building trust. Is what you're doing. Good rapport. Thank you. Good rapport. That's it. That's the one.
And
So not being frivolous. I think not being frivolous. I think there can be. If you're not treating this as a playing the game in a gaming group with lots of bantery type, unless they engage in that kind of thing. Anyway, it depends on the personalities in the room, as always. As I said, context is everything. Depends on who you're actually with. But I imagine that these guys are going to be, and not necessarily all guys, obviously. These people are probably going to be very focused, because if they're doing this all day, they are going to have a view about how things are going in their day. Now, your advantage is that your approach, I suspect, and your games will be quite striking, and that will be great, because that lifts them out of the commonality, if I can put it that way. Definitely.
It feels like what you're basically getting at is respecting their time, making sure that you don't beat about the bush, as you said, getting to the point.
You've got 30 minutes, haven't you?
Yes.
Did you say?
And I think that given that the meetings are 30 minutes apart, it might actually be a bit less than that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the classic way a meeting like this works is you start with the normal greetings, and you start by saying who you are and what your background is, and they should introduce them, and hopefully they'll introduce themselves first, because that's how it should work, because you're the visitor. But so that there will be an exchange of information to start with, and then you can go into your game stuff. So a normal exchange of information about who you are and what you've done, and that's where you can just stick the yogi on the table or whatever and say, I've done this before. So they've got a context of what you're about. That's what I would go with.
So after that, what you were saying is to show things, like show rather than tell, but also then to talk a little bit about the story and your process in terms of building a long-term relationship. This is where I think there's a real balance to be struck, because the focus has to be on the games, I think.
Yes.
But if I contextualize it and say, yes, these are a whole bunch of things that I've done in the past year, I think that even something as short as that, and saying, yes, I'm doing these small print-on-demand things, and I'm trying to make a new game for every convention I go to, maybe, and do a lot of experimentation. Maybe I don't need to spend minutes talking about my process. Maybe just
that's probably enough. Yes. I think, because that shows that you're generating a lot of ideas and developing them into a lot of games. It shows that you're doing a lot of you're getting a lot of output, a lot of high quality output. I think that's what you're showing there, and I think that shows more about you as a person and as a designer. That's the kind of thing which I think is really helpful for a publisher to know. Yeah, definitely.
And you said, don't tell me, it was basically, don't make assumptions. Don't tell me this is going to be the greatest Monopoly killer. Don't tell me that this is going to be perfect for me. And yes, I absolutely understand why you don't want someone to make these decisions for you. You want yourself to have the opportunity to make those decisions.
Yes.
And you said, don't take offense and don't focus on art. I think that these, although you did give the caveat, don't focus on art when it's irrelevant. So, for example, with the cat game, I might actually tell them, yes, the red and the purpley blue could have been a little bit more different in retrospect, I probably would have made it to lighter blue and a very soft yellow. I mean, I know that.
But I think with your games, particularly, your games almost all rely on artwork as, I mean, part of the mechanics is artwork in a way. So I think that
more than half of the stuff that I've done in the past year, yes.
Yeah. So I think, well, you know, if you were doing if you're pitching a worker placement game, or you know, or a Euro of some type, then focusing on artwork is just, I wouldn't focus on the artwork at all. I mean, having a prototype which has got presentable artwork is quite nice. And obviously the prototype needs to have good enough stuff so that people can actually play the game. And it for example, we've had games in the past from people where we had a game where I think there were some cards and the board, and the colors, the red on the cards didn't match the orange on the board, although it's supposed to, you know. So the basics of the artwork must work functionally, but they don't have to look, it doesn't have to look pretty. I know that some people have, I mean, I've seen pictures with relatively hand-drawn stuff that is, I know your stuff is hand-drawn, but you know,
I know what you mean.
Hand-drawn by people like me.
I was like hand-drawn where you do literally 50 cards in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. So that can work if it's that type of game, but because your games, your games are not going to work with my kind of 50 cards in 10 minutes artwork. You have to have the art. So talking about the artwork in yours, especially if it's relevant to how they might develop the game, that's perfectly great. Yes, stick meeples. Yeah,
as opposed to stick meeples.
I can just about do stick meeples. Yeah.
But that has been really helpful. Yes. Thank you for the chat. Is there anything else at this point that you feel you would like to advise me on as a friend, as a person?
There's the whole question of sell sheets. I mean, do you have sell sheets? I mean,
I don't actually have sell sheets for these. I was going to just take copies of the decks, and for my one game that isn't in a busy bargain bag, which is called Drawn Together, and I probably need to work on the tagline a lot more. Maybe that should be my job for today. But it's a game about competitive coloring in. Two people each trying to make the picture look like their own objective. I mean, that works as a pitch, but it still doesn't feel perfect. I don't know.
I think you have to play that to see how it works, because the dependency there is on the actual the initial drawing, and it depends on that. So you have to do it.
Absolutely.
And I think with a lot of your games, and it's great. It's good that you can pitch it like that, and you can say, you can just give people the stuff and say, just try it out, and that's actually a really good way of demonstrating a game. And the contrast with, you know, demonstrating Arc Nova is very different from demonstrating in a bind, fundamentally. So yes, that's exactly it. Yes.
And Ian says taglines. That's what I'm talking about. Taglines. I'm not going to scream and shout.
I think that's excellent.
Yes. Yes. So I was saying for that one thing, I was going to have some sheets of paper for us to play if we are able to make time for that, and some previously drawn games for them to show this is what a previously drawn game looks like. But I was also just going to say it's not like a deck of cards where there's any advantage to you taking it with you. I might as well just email you the PDFs, and if you want the bits of paper, then you can have it. I mean, but I guess there's no harm in me printing off a copy of the rules, and then if they want it, then
absolutely
they can take it.
I would do that. I mean, the thing about having a piece of paper is that it reminds them of who you were and what you did. That's what I see as the kind of possible use of, if you're doing a lot of if you're a publisher and you've got a load of pitches in a day, then having something that says this was that one, some piece of paper which says, right, this is this person's one. Now, if you're giving them a game which is relatively small, like a card game, that's probably enough. But having the rules, that would be good, actually, because it's something
like the rules are
something they can
in
stick in
they
can stick in a file. They can stick it in a file, can't they? Then.
Yes, and yeah, I feel like that's been massively helpful.
Well,
I think that I am what you mentioned about the sheet of paper. I think I am going to make an additional sheet of paper where it's just, I am Bez. I have given you my contact details, but here's my contact details again, and here's a list of all the games that I brought, just so that they can remember them. And Alex is talking about musical pitches, and then just coming up. Yes. I don't know how this would. Weerbell, people who play Weerbell. I don't know what that means. Meant to be to this noise of, but no, thank you so much. At this point, I like to turn it around and say, question of the day. What things that you would potentially like to ask me, or indeed all the people watching? What would you like to ask everyone? Question of the day. Question of the day. Goodness. It's the final question before we go on our way. Question of the day.
Question of the day. That's a difficult one. Okay. What are you most looking forward to about UK Games Expo?
Ooh, that's a good question. What are you most looking forward to at UK Games Expo? I am... See, the thing is that to look forward to something, you have to have certainty that it will happen. And I am hoping that I manage to get to the stage where my helpers are just kind of on top of all the games, and they already know all the games and are doing everything perfectly, and I can just focus on chatting to media people and reviewers and stuff like that. That is what I'm hoping for, but that's kind of a general thing over the course of the day or over the weekend. The one thing, honestly, my favorite 2 p.m. event, the one that I think will be the best, I mean, actually, firstly, I'm really looking forward to getting to play a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your radishes, which is a super hard version of the previous one. It's a super hard. It's exactly the same, but with super hard. It's like, imagine like just intentionally confusing. And I'm excited to see the 2 p.m. event. Like, look, a game about wee whimsical creatures or cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after makes noises. I know how that will go. But the
radishes one, I see.
The radishes one, I'm really excited to see the confusion on people's faces when I twist the rules.
Is there kind of progression of the vegetables that makes the radishes harder? Is it like how strong they are flavor wise, or turnips and then beetroot slightly more, and then radishes is.
I mean, I hadn't
go from radishes. I mean,
it wasn't.
Is it really
pre-planned?
Really hot chilies after that? Is it?
I guess it would have to be. Yeah, I'm counting your chili peppers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really match up the vegetables to the thing. But Alex says you can look forward to something uncertain with a little bit of help. We've got a quick question if you're willing to answer. When did you last play City of Sorcerers?
Oh, goodness. That actually... Well, I play... Does it count? I played a redeveloped version of it about 7 or 8 years ago. Well, no, about 10 years ago.
Wow.
A redeveloped version of it, and it was with our game designers group. And to be fair to them, they all sat through it for 2.5 hours, however long it was, and then they absolutely trashed it at the end. The redeveloped with the So yeah, a long time. The actual proper City of Sorcerers, a very long time ago. Yeah, wow. Yes, that's a bit of a.
Wow. Apparently there's a copy in Scotland waiting to be played.
Is it shrink wrapped?
Ian says some vegetable aversion therapy might be needed. Alex is mostly looking forward to seeing people. Some friends are hopefully going that Alex has not met before. So, for example, Xate, I imagine, and Joseph Kelly says, I'm going for the first time, so I'd love to meet you
Yay!
there, Alex, and
Yes,
presumably
come
everyone
over.
else as well.
Yes, come over, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, this is lovely. People connecting, and
well, my brilliant thing is associated with the question of the day, which I just meant, and that is my brilliant thing is volunteers at Expo. I mean, obviously, particularly the people who are volunteering to help me on my stand, but volunteers at Expo, people who are just throwing themselves into that because they want to just help other people enjoy games. I think that's great. I mean, and I mean, one of the things I didn't mention in what has happened is that Charlie and I went to Bacon, which is a convention down in Exeter. We go every year when it's on, and that's where we caught the illness. But never mind, we skip over that. But what happens there is they have a vote on the Sunday for the person who has been most helpful in the whole of the con, and it's called this. You get a little trophy called the Spirit of the Game trophy, which is a really nice idea. And Charlie won it, even though we weren't there on the Sunday to receive it. So Charlie won it. So Charlie is the spirit of the game, which is great.
That's amazing.
Because what she does at Bacon is part of her. What she goes there for is to literally help people. She demos to people. She introduces. She drags in the newcomers and gets them all involved. And that's absolutely fantastic. It's not something that I'm necessarily particularly good at. Because I'm trouble with me is I kind of get focused on the war game side, and I'm very happy to teach and drag people into war games, but it's not that's not the mainstream type of games that are played at Bacon. So that's really good. I mean, it's the volunteering, it's the people who are prepared to put themselves out there and help other people.
Yep, it's not Bacon, it's Bacon.
Yes.
Of course.
There's another Bacon which is in San Francisco. It's not that one either.
That is just delightful. So, need to wrap up, but very quickly, over to you. What are you up to? You can share what's on if you want to. Something that you want to share, promise that to care, something you have to do, something you want to do, something you're excited to do. All of these wrapped up together for me. I have a few things that I have to do. Write down a little menu of my games. I'm going to use my price list from last weekend as a starting point and just take off all the prices from it. And
good idea. Yeah.
That feels like, boom, there.
Yeah,
I've almost done 70% of it. And then add a couple of games that I didn't have. Yeah, then get ready. Maybe practice doing it to a mirror or just an invisible person a few times, and make sure that time there I might take. It is actually quite warm, and maybe because I'm
quite warm today, although I think the weather might be. They said it was going to rain possibly later on. So I don't
honestly, 90% of my focus today pretty much is just going to be on that.
Yes.
And what are you up to?
Well, what I am up to is I am going to be playing Kingmaker on Tabletop Simulator with the Gibson's team tomorrow.
Ooh.
So that'll be exciting because we've got a couple of Gibson's people coming to our stand because we have a Kingmaker table, so that people can actually play the prototype game. It's on Tabletop Simulator, but it's currently as a private. It's not released on TTS as a public game, but it because it's still subject to change. So and also it's only got my artwork. It's not got proper artwork on it. But that will be exciting. So we've got we're going to have a 4-player game, and it's going to involve the person who is managing the Kickstarter campaign. 2 or 3 members of the Gibson's team and me, and we're going to go through that, and they're going to learn how to play, so that by the time we get to Sunday at UK Games Expo, they should know enough about the game to be able to introduce people to it quite happily.
Sunday?
These are marketing people.
Why not Friday?
Well, they're only coming on Sunday, I think.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Part of the problem is because it's the Platinum Jubilee weekend. Lots of people have got things already organised for doing on the bank holiday. Oh, there's a really nice reminder from UK Games Expo team. Don't forget that the Thursday of UK Games Expo and the Friday are both bank holidays, so that might actually influence how you manage your couriers. You don't want to order your games to arrive on the Thursday and then suddenly find that because it's a bank holiday, they deliver them on the Monday. It's a nice warning. I'm really hoping
it's nice that they kind of preemptively give those messages out.
Because actually, we've never had a UK Games Expo on a bank holiday. It's always because it's June. It's never been the bank holiday before,
I don't really bother with bank holidays have literally never affected me. When I worked retail, like it didn't matter if it was a bank holiday, we still worked. When I've worked for myself, you know, it matters even less.
No, they don't affect me either. But the thing is, a lot of businesses don't do much on bank holidays, do nothing on the bank holidays. So it is a thing. I hope it means that there'll be a greater crowd at UK Games Expo rather than a lesser crowd. And it might affect travel. It certainly might affect travel because driving in the bank holidays generally people try to avoid it. But then again, we'll be going towards Birmingham rather than away from Birmingham, so we might be okay. I hope.
Yeah, because people generally be going away from the big cities, I guess. Yes.
And I hope they don't do too much engineering work on the railways, because that often.
We had a small comment from Joseph Kelly who says, "I heard bake on. I thought it was the opposite of bake off." Yep.
I like
most people are
somebody
trying.
Somebody made the quip about bacon sandwiches. I think that was a good one. Somebody ought to do bacon sandwiches. Yeah, definitely.
Most people are trying to get out of Birmingham. Yet, what sort of idiots would go towards Birmingham? But let me quickly recap and wrap up before we finish up. So we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. You gave your notes, which was amazing, talking about researching the company, making sure that you want to do your book of the day first?
Sorry, that was it. This is one I've just got a copy of and read it. It's because Airfix is like well, this came out I think for the 50th anniversary of Airfix. It's more than 50 now, and it's Arthur Ward's a really keen guy on Airfix. He's got lots of stuff, and it's just interesting to me. If you want to read about the history of Airfix, you can pick up that book for about a couple of quid. It's really quite good, and it's fun. I probably ought to give that to Tony for his museum of board games. Although Airfix haven't really done much in the way of board games apart from our Airfix Battles game. Anyway, sorry, Bez.
No worries.
I interrupted you.
I'm just there we go. Just copy pasting a whole bunch of links into the chat. Ian says that's a nice book. I love their historical figures. And so, yes, recap. You talked about researching the company, making sure that you show the thing, making sure you're confident, making sure you're honest, and have your one-line hook ready. Give them the rules, a prototype. Be businesslike. Show the feel of it. Talk about the story and the process and build up that long-term relationship. Don't assume, don't say this is going to beat Risk or this is going to be perfect for you or you're going to love it. Just show it, and if it's that good, they will fall in love with it or see that for themselves. Don't make grandiose claims. Don't necessarily give a pitch or anything that's unasked for. You might say, would you like a sell sheet? Would you like, for example, a copy of Yogi just in case you don't know it as validation? That I have worked with other publishers before. But don't push anything. Don't take any offense. And don't focus on art that's not necessary for the key flow of the game. We talked about Tony Boydell's Museum of Board Games, Doctor Strange, UK Games Expo, having an order already planned for what you're going to show off, talking about the previous games, being early, forming a dialogue, telling them, yes, I'm happy to help as you go through the development process, showing them the fun bits of playing, but then having that exchange of information with clarity, respecting their time, being to the point. And that was pretty much the key thing until we got to Baycon.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're all looking forward to lots of different stuff at UK Games Expo. Apparently, don't take a gate either. Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Or a hedge. Don't take a hedge either.
Oh yes, don't take a pitch. Don't take a football pitch. Don't take a field.
Yes.
Anyway, so yes. Unless you have anything else to say, I think this is the end for this week.
I think we've done. I think we're there. Yes. Good luck. Very, very good luck. And I think the most important thing actually is you need to enjoy it as well. And that's important. I think pitching and being overstressed, you know what you're going to do. You know it's going to go well because it's you and it's doing what you do. So, have complete confidence that everything's going to be absolutely fine. And have fun doing it. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much. That's a really good way to finish up. Like, basically, you have I have worked on these games. Of course, I know them. I have, thankfully, managed to teach all of them because one of them I only got last week. But being at a convention, like I said yesterday, I actually managed to make a wee bit of money, but also I had fun. And I got a chance to teach games and learn how to teach the games a wee bit better. I learned, yes, if I want to teach it, if I want to shave a few seconds off the teaching, these are the 5 cards that I show off right at the start of the game. And so I'll be putting things together. But it's, as in, don't take offense. Okay, don't take offense. Don't take a gate.
Don't take a gate, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Don't take to Michael unless he wants to go. And thank you very much for all the wishes of good luck. I do massively appreciate it. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone who's watching. If you want to check me out, I am Stuff by Bez everywhere. stuffbybez.com/streams. Tomorrow, I am going to show you my latest games that I actually have physically with me. So, as opposed to the latest games which I've sent off, which I'll be getting next week in time for UK Games Expo. So I'll be talking all about a game about counting cats, shapes and colours that keeps getting trickier. Very proud of it. And there's a bit of a story. I'll explain how to play. And I'll probably also, maybe, unless there's anything confidential, I'll talk about how it went yesterday. Then Friday will be a quick 5-minute catch-up. Saturday, I'm talking to Tom Truman, another indie self-publisher. Pearl Ho, who's working on their first game, Cake of Doom, on Sunday. And Monday, we'll probably be talking more about one of my recent games, doing some how-to-plays. Next Tuesday with Chloe Masheter, and next Wednesday with Jessica Medringham, chatting about UK Games Expo preparation, of course.
And Tuesday the 31st,
you will be back.
Hopefully, we're back talking about Expo again. Yes. Yes, hopefully.
And so, if you want to, feel free to share, spread the word. Once more, thank you very much, everyone. And if you want to check out Alan Paull, Alan, where do you like to be found?
Well, I'm all over the place there. I've got a blog on surprisetechgames.co.uk. You could actually be really nice if you'd subscribe to that. Would be helpful. And if you need to contact me, I'm actually best by email, alan@alanpaull.co.uk or alan@surprisetechgames.co.uk. And sometimes I really wish that Surprise Dare Games was a bit shorter, but there you go. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's interesting. It's only 3 words, but
still quite long. We tried to get ssg.co.uk, but somebody else already had it.
We probably don't want to rebrand as Surprise Dare.
No, I think we're Surprise Dare Games. We are Surprise Dare Games. It's what we are.
Yeah, I think you've made your bed. I mean,
Yes,
people know you
exactly.
as Surprise Star Games.
SS Games. Yeah, that's going to work. Thanks for that. Secret Service Games, you see? That's what it is.
Yes. With that, once more, thank you, everyone. And I think the key point is, yes, I'm going to remind myself, because I know you just told me, and this is me almost talking to myself, is to have fun, because if we're not having fun, why are we doing this? Because frankly, there are better ways to make money, and you've got to try and have fun in life, because that's kind of what life is about.
Exactly.
So for now, lots of love, and bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Let us Santomat. I don't lost me. Bye bye. Thank you for the bacon. Let us Santomat. I don't get. Let us Santomato. Santomato. Let's a San Tomato.
Bacon, lettuce and tomato. Oh, help! Let me out! Let me out!
Oh, that was brilliant. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.